Hi, I'm Kristin Omdahl with Red Heart Yarns. Today I want to show you some of the tips and tricks for working with Red Heart Boutique Sashay yarn. If you see, this is a yarn that actually has fabric to it already. It's got this beautiful ruffly fabric that you knit into. You can knit or crochet with it actually, and I want to show you some tips and tricks for working with it. First of all, it does come wound in a ball already, and you can work right from the ball it comes on. Sometimes I like to wind it myself first, so I slip the sleeve off and then wind it slowly into a ball very loosely, and then you're going to pick up and knit into it, and I'll show you that in a second. Once in a while, you'll find that your yarn has a knot in it where two strands have been tied together. Occasionally that happens in any yarn, and once in a while it does happen with sachet as well. And here's an example. I was rolling this ball into a hand wound ball, and I found a little knot in it. Now you can just work right over it, and you could just knit into the stitch on either side of the knot, and because of the voluminous nature of the ruffles of this scarf, it does blend in very well. If that makes you uncomfortable though, there is another way to do it, and you can just untie the knot, and what you would do is stretch the yarn out into the fabric, which is what we'll do in a second when we start knitting with it, and you can overlap them by a couple of inches like that. And what you'll end up doing is just working through both thicknesses for that couple of inches, and then you will absolutely never see the join once you start knitting with that. So let's get started on making the scarf. This is the Saucy Swirl Scarf. This pattern and the Smoky Swirl Scarf are both available for download on the website, so you can check that out. But I'm going to really quickly go over how simple this is to get started. And one of the really cool parts about this scarf is because the yarn already has a fabric into it, you're actually doing a lot less stitch work than what you would normally have to do for a scarf of this size and this volume. So it's a great beginner scarf, great instant gratification scarf, and wonderful for last minute gifts. So what you want to do is look and see that there are two sides to this yarn. Once you stretch it out, you'll see that we have a mesh with a very thin edge on the top, and at the bottom we have a thicker edge, which is actually the hem of our ruffle. And if you're really getting confused about which one's which, that's where the metallic is also. So you don't want to knit into the metallic. You want to leave that for your decorative border edge, and we're going to work into the other side. And as you pull it apart, you can see that the mesh holes work all the way up to the top. We want to start 4 or 5 inches in from the end, and what you're going to do is pick up into these mesh holes from the back to the front. So I'm going to insert my needle from the back to the front into each of these holes for the number of stitches that I want to cast on. Can you believe that? That's our cast on, just inserting our needle into a hole. That's amazing. 1, 2, 3, from the back to the front 4, from the back to the front 5, from the back to the front 6. And voila, you have 6 cast on stitches. So we're going to turn our work now, and with our second knitting needle, we're going to knit by inserting our needle into that same loop that's on the left hand needle, picking up our yarn, finding the next mesh hole in fact, I'm going to skip the first one for the beginning of the row and just work into the next one. And to find where it is, it's really easy to insert your right index finger to make sure you get the top hole, insert it onto the right hand knitting needle, and then slip through the one on the left and pull it off. There's your first knit stitch. So we'll insert our right hand knitting needle into the left under the loop with our right index finger. Find that next loop, put it onto the right hand needle, and then slide that through the loop on the left hand needle and off the needle. And there's our second stitch. So we'll do that for all 6 stitches across the row. There's 3, 4, 5, and 6. So so in there, we'll turn our work. And look at that. You already have 4 inches of a dual layered ruffle scarf with only 6 cast on stitches and 6 knit stitches. That's like unheard of in regular knitting. So this is lightning fast for a gift or a last minute project. So we're going to continue that, and that's our row that we repeat for the entire project. We just insert our needle into the next stitch, put our index finger through the next mesh loop, pull it through. And so what you're ending up doing is you're doing like an accordion pleat as you go up the rows of turning that ribbon as you go. Now when you get to the end, you're going to bind off the same way. So we're going to insert our needle into the next stitch. Knit 1, then knit 2, which is how we would do any traditional bind off technique. Then insert our left hand needle into that second stitch, pull it up and over the first one, and there's your first bound off stitch. And we'll do that across the row. Now for weaving in your loose ends, that would be a little bit different on this type of project than a traditional project, because you're not going to use a tapestry needle and weave through your yarn. What you're going to want to do is get a sewing needle and a colored thread that matches whatever yarn color you're choosing, and something that blends in nicely, and you're just going to want to tack in your end. So what we'd do is we'd cut this about 4 or 5 inches, and then maybe tuck it in between the ruffles and sew it in place with the needle and thread. You can find the Saucy Swirls and Smoky Swirls scarves available on the website to download, and many more patterns are available there too. Come check it out at redheart.com.